Surely this isn't just a question of talent. So what are the other reasons you're shifting focus away from Frankfurt and hiring more staff in Singapore?
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this. I think, the industry, the airline and aviation industry has been through a very rough period for the last 12 to 18 months. It's been the darkest and deepest crisis for the industry. And as our airline members look to the future, this was also part of our plan in terms of future-proofing the management organization for Star Alliance. We did not take this decision lightly. We, as you introduced, we looked at many places where we would begin to shift some of our major operations. And in the end, we selected Singapore for reasons that you have alluded to in terms of access to innovation opportunities, global competitiveness. And these are based on global indices and not just a decision we made very lightly, as well as, importantly, stable and fair tax and labor systems, a city where a member of our alliance is based. So it's been a balance of many considerations before we settle down on the choice of Singapore. Of course, we're still maintaining our headquarters in Frankfurt in Germany, but this now gives us the opportunity to not only tap the growth of the Asia-Pacific market, but also to position us as we emerge from this coronavirus crisis.
So you have 26 members now. Are you looking to add more members, and which regions are you targeting?
It's early days at the moment, as I think the industry is going through a shake-up. Obviously, we know now publicly that one of our member airlines, Asiana Airlines from South Korea, will exit the alliance probably sometime next year at a time when it is acquired by Korean Air. But I think as airlines around the world are recalibrating their network and their fleet structure, their operations, it is somewhat still early for us to determine very clearly now where we would begin to target in terms of membership growth.
Not just Asiana, but Air India, after the Tata takeover, will they continue to be part of the alliance?
Well, we certainly hope so, and our intention is to continue to have Air India in the alliance. They play a very important role for us. They provide us with access to a very big and growing domestic market. The divestment process, I think it's a positive process. It will allow Air India to focus on product and service enhancements that they have not been able to attend to. And so with private investment coming in, we expect that Air India will continue to add value to the alliance.
Let's talk a little bit about your Chinese airlines members, because of course we continue to see this COVID zero strategy of no tolerance when it comes to Chinese borders. What impact is this having, given that these changes occur so suddenly, depending on the infections?
Yeah, so I think, we've seen in the last 12, 18 months, as I indicated, the industry has been through its deepest and darkest crisis, very prolonged, one that is unprecedented. And because of its unprecedented nature, many countries and authorities have reacted very differently. Perhaps international organizations could have had a far more robust role in getting us through this as an aviation industry. But because individual authorities and countries have had to react to something that is unprecedented, we continue to see different policies being put in place. But I think we, as Star Alliance, and I think as the industry as a whole, we are optimistic and positive that with science and medical evidence, we will become wiser, as we have been over the last several months, as countries and authorities begin to open up their borders. I think, for the last 2 months, we have been more optimistic than we've ever been since the beginning of the crisis.
But China specifically, how long do you think they will continue this COVID zero strategy? And have you spoken to those Chinese airlines? What are they saying to you?
Yeah, I think, what I'm hearing is from our members in China is that they obviously will have to abide by the policy of the government, and the government has been quite public that they continue to manage this in a fairly tight manner for at least until the middle of next year. But we certainly are working with our airline members in China, and my counterparts too in One World and SkyTeam are also doing the same thing in a way that will try to persuade and bring to the table the sort of medical and scientific evidence to persuade the authorities to look at things in slightly different light. And we've seen this work in Australia, in New Zealand, in Taiwan, and in other parts of the world. So we remain optimistic that at some point we'll be able to persuade the authorities in China to look at this from a somewhat different light.
When you're engaging with them, does the subject of vaccine passports come up? What's the temperature in the room on that?
Well, it's a great question. The topic of vaccine passport is loaded with policy considerations. We've seen protests around the world on the use of vaccine passports. But ultimately, I think, for some time to come, we will continue to see authorities for travel and other purposes requiring sort of vaccination evidence to be produced. Even in Singapore, in Germany, in the UK, that's certainly the trend for the short to medium term. But as vaccination rates increase, I think we will see sort of greater acceptance. There may come a point where vaccination certificates are no longer sort of necessary if a substantial majority of us globally are vaccinated. So, but obviously, this is a precautionary measure, another layer of protection that authorities are putting in place to make sure that public health is addressed. For us, at the aviation industry, our concern is to make sure that the requirement of vaccination or the use of vaccine passports or vaccination certificates is not politicized. And we've seen for some time certain authorities and countries recognizing certain vaccines and not other vaccines. And this will be an obstacle to recovery in air travel. And we've got to make sure that there is far more international coordination and standardization on the acceptance of vaccinations.